Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Staying Forever Strong. Today I'm excited to have a former contestant on Bachelor Listen to Your Heart, Mel Taevin. We're going to talk all about how she stays strong and just mental health in general because to me it's such an important topic, especially like what's going on right now in the world. So, hey Mel, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? I'm great. How are
Good.
you?
I'm good, thanks. I know it's so crazy out right now, so it's nice to like be able to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, in a calm, safe space,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah.
I know it's hard to
Which
like,
I will say, in regards to the hard times, I think everybody is a little bit more open to providing a safe space than they used to be.
yeah,
We're all tapping into that challenge of giving that to, not really just for other people, but like, I want to be a safe space for myself
yeah,
kind of thing. So, yeah, we benefit in weird ways.
yeah. No, I think it's great, and I think especially nowadays, I feel like it's so important because so many people have like what I call an invisible illness. It could be chronic pain, like a migraine, you can't see it, or anxiety, depression, like everything is like so invisible that you look completely normal on the outside.
Totally. I agree. Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's kind of like why I wanted to come and do this type of thing to kind of like just let people's stories out and show that everyone is a strong person. I always like the term warrior, not victim,
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
because we're all fighting every day, all day. So
It's true, and you really don't know what the other person has gone through. You don't know their circumstances. And most people, at least in my experience, don't want to be defined by their circumstances. They want to be defined by how they're accomplishing their accomplishments
right,
or trying to. Um, so it's really interesting to be able to immerse yourself in difficult and uncomfortable conversations, because I think that for people who have those, what you call invisible illnesses, they are constantly um, they're constantly starting those uncomfortable conversations within themselves every single day, because you're constantly like, especially if you have a mental illness or like depression or something, you're constantly asking yourself, how am I, how are the people around me, what is today, who is around me, who left me, what's going on in the world, and you're constantly like, nothing is comfortable. But at the same time, when you have a civil unrest and in regards to this political climate, you shouldn't feel comfortable. So I think that for the first time, a lot of us that constantly have that dialogue in our head, we're finally like, we're not alone.
yeah,
Some people finally get it a little bit, because they are experiencing that like unrestful
right.
feeling. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think because especially like right now, or even in the beginning of quarantine more, and just in general, it's like you're people that normally maybe don't feel so anxious or not as much bothers them. Like a lot of it is now because you're so stuck and no one knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't have the luxury of casting it aside anymore because it's very much in your face.
Yeah.
And because you have limited, we have limited resources of hiding. You're in quarantine, all you're doing is staring at screens, all you're doing is listening to resources, all you're doing is having conversations with people around you.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen that way. So it's such a weird kind of social experiment of how it all ended up.
Right. And I think a lot of it too is it's hard for people, like especially that are living alone. Like they have like thankfully of technology to like talk to people, but it's still like I live with my parents, but like it's still sometimes like overwhelming and lonely, even though I'm with them and I'm close with them and everything. But sometimes it's just so I couldn't imagine always being by yourself during this.
Yeah, for sure. I know. Not fun.
So one is like one or two or whatever you want to say about like how do you stay strong during like these hard times? And it could be any hard time in general.
I usually try to gain some sort of perspective, because I think that when things, am I allowed to cuss on this podcast? I should have asked before this.
Fair.
Okay. Some people are very offended.
No.
um, I feel like when shit hits the fan for someone, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed and to feel like you don't have control. The only control that you really do have is to gain perspective on something. So something I always said, like, for example, I guess we'll use this example. For on the show, I would always, whenever anybody would start emotionally spiraling, which, you know, if you know anything about the show, you know that's basically the premise of it, is look at the whole board. And it's not that I wasn't insinuating that you're playing a game. I was really just trying to explain it in a sense of take your mind out of the emotion that you feel and out of the anger that you're feeling and imagine a physical chessboard in front of you or Monopoly board, whatever game fits your style, and assess the situation for what it is and gain perspective on that situation. Because if you don't have perspective on that situation, you just have emotion on that situation. And emotions really rarely know their actions.
Right.
So my mantra, I guess you could say, oh God, I sound so millennial. The thing I always like to say is, you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. And I think that when we have really difficult challenges that require us to be strong, it's like I either have to figure it out and be strong and tough it out, or I die. You know what I mean? Like so many people have been through that, and so many people have found themselves in that corner before, where the only thing you can do is the stuff you can do. You can't
exactly
tell other people. You know, like a really great example is like our president. Like I can't control what Donald Trump does. I can only control what I do. And it's as frustrating as it is, I need to get a grip on what I think. I need to get a grip on what I say. I need to make sure that what I say is what I want people to hear and positive, and it sets a good example for what I don't want to be, what I don't want to say. So really just perspective and feeling like, I feel like there's such a stigma over, especially like mental health, like it's not okay to feel sad.
Right.
It's not okay to feel sad. It's not okay to take medication. It's not okay to be, you know, really, really low. And it's not okay not to be okay. But it is okay not to be okay, because most of us aren't okay most of the time. And I think, you know, we are experiencing a time where we need to we need to emulate a sense of safe space that encourages people to realize, oh, it is okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
It is okay to feel this way. It is okay to get help, and it's okay to be cared for in ways that you've never been cared for before. Otherwise, you're not going to get through it. So that's a long-winded version of my answer.
No, I love that. And I think you're completely right in that way. I think a lot of times, like the biggest thing I hate about some of this kind of stuff, it's like if I'm because I have chronic pain. So when I have a bad day, I mean, you can't tell, but some people say like, oh, it could be worse. Or like or someone doesn't want to complain to me because they think their situation isn't as bad as mine. But like, I hate that statement. Everyone has their pain. Everyone's thing is just as bad because it's bad to them.
100%. Yeah.
Like, thankfully, I'm not, God forbid, dying or of cancer, but I'm in 24/7 agony pain every day, and probably will be the rest of my life. So like, that's not a good thing either.
No, not at all.
And I think when people are sad, maybe they're depressed, that's not good. That's just as bad. It's just everything's different. You can't really compare.
Well, I also think that, well, first of all, I'm really sorry that you go through that every day. That seriously blows.
Okay, I'm getting
yeah. But I think that when people do say that, I always say that when someone's going through a hard time, people will either embrace you or push you away, and it'll happen in a matter of seconds. And it happens more than once, right? And so people are intimidated by things that aren't welcoming and happy and bubbly and like pumped up and humorous. And so in order to understand that, for example, I have mental health issues myself. And if someone doesn't understand it, if someone hasn't been through it, their immediate defense is saying something positive, right? Like, oh, you'll get through this, you always do, or it always works out in the end, or I mean, you insert thing here, we've all heard it. And it's not that they are trying to dismiss my feelings. It's not that they're trying to dismiss my lifestyle. It's not that they're trying to dismiss my circumstances. It's because they can't understand it. And what they know is the Disney movie of putting on a happy Band-Aid and saying, it's okay, it's all going to be okay, because if I say it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, and you're going to be okay after it, and that's my control over it. But because if someone doesn't understand anxiety and depression, what would you really say? That's what I always think as well when someone comes at me with something that seems like fucking bullshit, where it's like, you don't even, it's like, you don't even know, but yeah, they don't know. They don't know. And that's why they're saying it. And a lot of people will, I call them passerbys. A lot of people, when
like
they see,
in a way, like,
yeah, kind of like, let's say your sister dies, and then everybody's coming out of the woodwork and they want to be close to you and they want to talk to you and they want to be there for you, and they tell you all these things like, you're going to get through it, and I will help you through it, and I'll be around you, and I'll make you a casserole, and I'll give you hugs when you need them, and I'll talk to you in the middle of the night, and I'll answer my phone. And then when things start to simmer down and get really real, they leave.
Most of them are gone.
And those people are the people that don't understand it. And there's a specific mental capacity to understanding those who are in an internal, non-physically acknowledged struggle, which is
a lot.
Really frustrating for people with those invisible illnesses.
Yeah.
But I think the more that we try to understand what we don't understand, it's like a battle of not understanding. That person doesn't understand us, and we don't understand them.
Right.
But the more I understand, oh, you just don't know, and this is a lot for you. I'll be grateful for the amount that you give me. I'll temper my expectation, and then we'll do our thing. But you can't get disappointed with people who don't understand something and give you the verbal Band-Aid, you know?
Right.
It's like yelling at a puppy.
True. And then but I think now hopefully like with all these resources that are out there and have been for however many years, maybe people will start to like understand a little bit more.
I hope so.
I hope. I mean, it's a long shot, but
I think the more we talk about these things, the more we're aware of them, and the more we don't necessarily normalize them, but we help those people who do feel uncomfortable because of their inexperience feel comfortable about it just by talking more about it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think all that is that's like such an important thing, all of it to say. And I think it's big that we need to just understand, like with everything that's going on in the world with the racial, it's all about, unfortunately, it's about people just not knowing, not understanding, ignorance. And that's the same thing with this.
100%.
And it's all what we're taught too. Like when you're little, like some families don't talk about this kind of stuff. Some people do hide it and they like just put that Band-Aid. So that's how they learn.
Yeah, that's how you learn. But it's also, I think that's just like a normal instinct, right? So it's like a grizzly bear in a first grade classroom. What are you gonna? You're okay. Well, what do I do? Okay, what do you fucking do? It's unfamiliar terrain, and it puts. I think something that I've tried to get a hold of in my mental health is to establish some sort of connection and example for those who don't have patient people who are going through shit around them. Because it's really easy to be a person of invisible illness and have zero patience for the people who don't understand. If you don't understand, fuck you. Like if you don't get it, then I'm not going to help you get it. But one of my main goals for the people around me is to I think that there's a apprehension for people to say, hey, I am up and down all the time, and some days I just want to be alone. Or, hey, I have manic depression. Or, hey, I have a chronic illness. Or, hey, you know what I mean? Like you kind of put yourself on the line because it seems vulnerable, because there are people out in the world that will use that against you later. And I think everybody who has had an invisible illness, as you say, has had that happen to them once or twice. And to get a hold of that, you really have to understand yourself. You really have to spend the money, unfortunately, to get a grip and surround yourself with people who do understand it. So that way you can find yourself in a place where you say, yes, this is what I go through all the time. And I'm going to talk to you about it all the time. And the more and more you get to know me, you'll learn to love me and understand that through this. So like for a lot of people, like mental illness is something that I go through every single day. It's a normal for me. It's, you know, or something like my past is normal for me. And it can be quite jarring to people who it's not normal.
Yeah.
And I find myself being like, oh, sorry, I said that so placé. And it's really just like a terrifying sentence. But you have to understand that for a lot of the time when I meet new people, when I do get close to them, I could be the first person with a mental illness that they've ever really known physically, you know?
Yeah.
So that the fact that getting to a point, one of my goals has been getting to a point where I can say all these things and be comfortable with however that person chooses to use it. Right? Like I can't expect someone to be like, oh, Mel has depression and anxiety. Cool. I'm just gonna stick around and acknowledge this and keep this in mind. And no, a lot of people get scared and a lot of people don't want to take the time to understand it because they never have understood it. Or something I always talk about is like understanding suicide. And that's something that like you said, a lot of people are raised to think that the way that they think. And the more we talk about something like suicide, the more we can understand it instead of having to go through something like suicide or having to know someone who goes through suicide to understand it.
Right.
I think that's why it's really important to tap into those resources and to just shut up and listen for a second for a lot of people, which I know is hard, but
yeah. No, yeah, and I agree because I think I'm hoping like with the more and more that people talk and the more resources, there'll be that one less person that feels alone enough to do something, like to commit suicide.
yeah.
Obviously everyone is different, but you just, I don't know, it's hard. So, but I
Or
also
to have a little bit, sorry.
No, you go.
Go ahead. Or to have just a little bit more of an understanding for those who are stuck in that mindset too, you know? Because at the end of the day, and I obviously, we won't harp on this subject very much, but at the end of the day, everybody feels like they want to die sometimes. Like everybody has that feeling of, holy fuck, I do not want to keep doing this. They get tired, they get emotionally exhausted. The entertaining idea of not having to deal with that seems great to them. But plotting your suicide is a completely different thing. Right. And you should definitely tap into figuring a little bit more clarity out before you decide to do so. Because it is really horrible and really sucky. But to be able to have more people come forward in that, for the people who are plotting and for the people who are seriously feeling that way, yeah, we need to talk about it more. And in which case we need to also not shame those who feel that way. We need to respect them and understand that at the end of the day, if they do end up doing something like that, you need to find it in your heart to say, you know what, that's what they felt they needed to do and they did it. But I want to make sure that everybody around me, if they ever feel that way, can find a friend in me and can say, you know what, I feel this way. I don't want to feel this way. You know? Yeah. So yeah, we do need to talk about it more. We really do.
And I think also one thing is that when it's like, you know, like the saying, like, you have to love yourself first before you can love someone else. I think that's very similar, like, to knowing, like, you need to know about yourself, like with mental health, or you like what you're going through more. You could be like a professional in your own body and what you're going through to be able to help someone else.
Totally.
It's the same. Yeah. Be similar.
Yeah, I think also the concept of constantly being humble in that too. I know a lot of people that go to therapy and then think that they rule the world because of their therapist. I go to 2 therapists and I'm constantly like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But you know, um, but yeah, I think that overall, it takes a lot of inner reflection and a lot of inner push to get to a point where you can ask for help, whether that be getting like I was talking to a friend the other day about they were like, you know what, I think I need to get like medication or something, I'm really struggling. And there's this stigma that we live with where medication is bad, or we should be ashamed if we have to take medication to be happy because being happy should be easy.
Right.
But if you were the way that I described it to them, I said, listen, here's the thing. It is scary because you don't know how what's the number one thing when people say, oh, you need to go on an antidepressant? Oh, my mood swings are going to go all over the place. I'm going to gain weight. I'm going to get acne. And it's like, no. Calm your jets. That's not necessarily the situation. If you were to go to the doctor and the doctor said, hey, Mel, listen, you're a little low on zinc. So I'm going to have you go to Whole Foods, grab this zinc tablet, take it for a month, you'll be back on track. I wouldn't even think twice about that. I'd be like, great, doc, thanks. Go to Whole Foods, get zinc tablets, be okay. And so if your doctor were to be like, hey, Mel, you have a chemical imbalance in your brain. It's not your fault. It just happens to be what your brain's doing right now. Take this pill and you'll be okay. Why can't we think of it like a zinc vitamin?
Right.
Why do we have such a mindset where it's not okay? And I think there's also that with therapy. Oh, you're spending a bunch of money just talking to someone when really you should be able to figure it out. Oh, you're spending a bunch of money talking to someone when really God's there. You should just be able to pray.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way. It's just not that way. And that does tap into a little bit more of that ignorance factor that you were speaking of before.
Yeah.
But that is why I make an active choice, and I haven't always, and I'm trying to be better about it. I'm making an active choice to verbally say, you know what? I'm a person, I'm a human being, I'm just a guy. I got 2 strengths. I have mental illness and I take medication. Would you know that? No. But you know how you don't know that by looking at me? It's because I fucking do the work, I do the work. And for people who are afraid and don't know, because it's a great unknown. It's like, I know I have to do the work, but nobody likes to work, 1, 2, on anything. Like nobody does, okay? We'd all rather be sitting around watching Game of Thrones, okay? That's like totally all we eating popcorn, yeah, for sure. But for something with your brain, something that you don't understand, that's so up and down and up and down. When you feel low, you feel low. When you feel great, you don't think about feeling low. You need to have the people in your life that say, listen, I go to therapy. This is what it's like. Listen, this is how I found my shrink. Listen, here's the difference between a psychiatrist and a blah, 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 and a blah, blah, blah. Listen, I did this, and this is what, and I want to be that person because I didn't necessarily have that person when I was trying to figure it out.
Right.
And I want to be that person for the people that I love and for the people that, listen to my music, or the people that see me using a pillow to dab my face on television. It's all the same. At the end of the day, if you need help, you need to be able to have that resource. And so that's my overall goal. But it did take me a really long time to get there. Yeah. And I don't have all the answers, which I think is really important for people with invisible illness to say, yeah, I do this. Yeah, this is my life. Yeah, I bought the t-shirt, I bought the magnet, I bought the little toy souvenir. I've been there, I've done that. The bumper sticker is on the bumper, but I don't know everything. I'm still learning. Right. And I will never learn everything. I will leave this earth not knowing a goddamn fucking thing. But I do know of a really great shrink you should see, Yeah. And I do know it's going to be okay,
Yes, I agree. And thank you. Thank you for just coming on today. I think that's like a really great spot to end it. Sure. And is there anything else you want to add before we, like, where people can find you or your music?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram at Taevin, Taevin music. All my links are on there, so basically just Instagram if you want to check that out. And I guess one thing that someone said to me recently that kind of blew my mind a little bit is, in the end, it will be okay. And if it's not okay, it's not the end.
I love that.
So everybody just fucking chill and be yourself and try to find someone to rely on as a safe space and try to be someone's safe space just as well. You know, it'll be okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And
you bet. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And I'm excited to see where this goes. So
yeah.
This was another episode of Staying Forever Strong. Bye, guys.